The last video of the day is a game called Why is Tim a Centrist? Of all the centrist types, center left? Woof! Well, I'll tell you why I'm center left. It's quite simple. I believe the government can and should play a role in environmental regulation and healthcare and things of this nature. How it's implemented is a different question. And I certainly think it's rife with corruption. But I do think the government has a role in these areas, thus I am a social liberal placed on the center left. However, here's a story, and I have no problem calling out the left or the right, don't get me wrong. But I really hate hypocrisy, so you will probably see me calling out the left way more. Here's a story from the Daily Caller. Google employees sought to block Breitbart from ads, emails show. We know that Google has done this. They have been biased and targeted conservatives. Heavens, I think at this point it's a fact, but why? Why then? Would you say, Tim, why are you a centrist? Because we have at the same time this story. This one's great. Leaked audio reveals Google's efforts to woo conservatives? Ooh. I think you have to realize that within a company as large as Google, it's not so simple. And I'll tell you my assessment. Is Google biased? Yes, 100% to the left. And the reason for it is they exist in Silicon Valley, which has a religion. It has Silicon Valley basically has a state religion, the non-theistic intersectionality religion. What ends up happening is all these companies are headquartered there. They build their policies around what surrounds them. Someone like Jack Conte at Patreon, he's surrounded by a bunch of extremists, religious ideologues who believe crazy things. And he thinks it's the real world. He thinks this is what most people believe, when they don't. So he creates policies on his platform that reflect that. However, you also need to realize Google has offices all over the world. And the people who work at Google in Silicon Valley, I believe based on sources within the company and people I know, yeah, they're left. They're left to far left. However, Google has other offices. Google has New York offices. I know some people in New York, not far left, not at all. I also know, have talked to some people in Europe working for Google, really not far left. What ends up happening is there are certain elements within Google who will want to woo conservatives in the United States for benefit to Google. And there are certainly employees within Google who are far left who want to go after conservatives, right? The point is, I'm always fascinated by the assumption that because one employee of a company did something, or because a handful did, it reflects on literally everyone within that company. Now, there's a lot of people who recognize the nuance here and say, no, the issue is that these people within Google can sway the entire company in certain directions and implement some of these policies. So yes, I will say straight up, of course Google is biased to the left. But that doesn't change the fact that it's not black and white. But let's read the first story, and then I don't want to read through the others, the leaked Google on the conservative one. I will a little bit. They say, Google employees sought to block Breitbart from Google AdSense less than 1 month after President Donald Trump took office, leaked emails from the company reveal. Google employees sought to use alleged hate speech as a pretense for banning Breitbart from taking part in the advertising program. Barring Breitbart from the advertising program would have a devastating effect on the site's ad revenue, as Google accounts for roughly 37% of all digital advertising revenue. Breitbart obtained the emails and published them Monday night, 1 day before Google CEO Sundar Pichai is set to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. A Google spokeswoman confirmed the email's authenticity to the Daily Caller News Foundation. I want to point something out, because today Sundar Pichai, he's testifying. I believe he's still testifying right now as I speak. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone asked him, a liberal, a lefty, Democrat, why is it that Breitbart appears in search more than MSNBC on certain issues? And Sundar Pichai is under fire from both the left and the right as to why Google is biased against both the left and the right. And he didn't really have a good answer. He said, look, it is what it is. And I thought it was funny that Google's search algorithm is built upon what people click on, okay? And that means certain things are based on certain people searching more than other things. Someone asked, why is it that when you search idiot, Donald Trump's face appears? Because there's likely a campaign to manipulate the algorithm among the left to get that to happen. They'll create a page that says idiot with Donald Trump, and they'll get everyone to click on it on Google or whatever, so that's what happens. It happens on the right and the left, and that means sometimes Breitbart will get seen more, and sometimes Vox will get seen more. It doesn't mean that Google is biased. It may, however, mean they're negligent. Because one of the things that happened because of this is that left-wing news sources were getting more higher positioning, because more people on the left were looking for these certain stories. The same can be true for the right, however. But let's read on. Google employees crowdsourced a spreadsheet of examples meant to show Breitbart engaging in hate speech as part of an internal lobbying campaign meant to pressure their higher-ups into removing Breitbart from AdSense. My team has been reviewing the site on a frequent and at least weekly. From the original fake news kickoff discussion, Google's director of monetization at the time, Jim Gray, assured employees concerned about Breitbart. Gray now is Google's director of trust and safety. Richard Zippel, a Google publisher quality manager at the time, similarly noted that Breitbart was being watched closely. When sufficient violations have been found, we'll take action at the site level, Zippel wrote. It's unclear whether Zippel is a Google employee. Now I want to add another thing here. I do not believe there's a grand conspiracy. Razor Fist has a really great video where he says it's just the way they are. It's not a conspiracy. They don't need one. They just act this way. He's right. It's not a conspiracy. These people aren't meeting together and planning these things. I'll tell you exactly what happens. Silicon Valley it's indoctrinated. It's got a state religion, basically, right? I'm being hyperbolic. Please spare me. But what happens is someone highlights at Google, hey, did you realize this site makes hate speech? And they don't look at the hate speech from their own side. Look at the video I made about the Women's March. They are oblivious. And there are people within their own ranks who know full well, but they don't care. Why? Because they truly believe in the idea of might making right. And I'm going to say it again. I said in the last video. It's really fascinating to me how the actual ideological Nazis are rife, are just have inundated the left and get away with it. People who are anti-Semites, people who believe there's no truth but power. Yes, people on the left have actually been called out because they believe they're allowed to lie to you to get what they want. So it's not surprising then when they say we're going to overlook these things on the left and focus on these things on the right. But again, it's not a conspiracy. It's just the way they are. It's someone saying, well, Breitbart's bad. I understand people on the left have done things, but at least the left are the good guys, right? Therefore, Breitbart should be banned. That's how it ends up happening. They say, to date, Breitbart has not yet been removed from AdSense. Google's spokeswoman denied that the company's advertising program is affected by political bias. We have extensive and very well-publicized policies for publishers who choose to monetize with Google Ads. We enforce these policies vigorously, consistently, and without any political bias, the spokeswoman wrote in an email to the Daily Caller News Foundation. We regularly and routinely review sites in our ad network to ensure compliance with our policies. These emails from early 2017 simply show the AdSense team explaining that such a periodic review was underway. I will also add, this was in early 2017, and Breitbart was never removed. What does that mean? It means at a higher level, someone may have tried to remove Breitbart, but failed. It failed. I know people who work within Google, and again, I'll say it, they're biased to the left for sure, but they're not as bad as most people are trying to paint them out to be. I will also add, realize this, please, that Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro can be critical of the trans community all day and night on their YouTube platforms, and they don't face big problems. They might be demonetized simply because advertisers don't want to be involved, and that is a problem. But look at Twitter. Twitter will ban you outright for saying men aren't women. They did. They banned a feminist for saying that, for Christ's sake. So when it comes to YouTube, YouTube actually is not as bad as everyone else. I'm not saying YouTube is good. YouTube has its problems. You can be brigaded into being banned. False copyright claims got Gavin banned, and now apparently YouTube's saying they're not going to reinstate him. YouTube has a bias problem, for sure. But I think it's fair to say they are nowhere near the worst. Does that mean we ignore their bias? No, of course not. We absolutely need to make sure we call out YouTube for being biased, 100%. But I think it's also important to point out, when you see a story like this, realize what we learned from here is that YouTube actually did the right thing and did not ban Breitbart. Actually, I don't even want to say the right thing. I don't know if Breitbart actually broke their rules, but Google did not remove them, so it's fair to say they did not. Which means, even under pressure, they didn't ban the conservative site. You can see the elements within Google who are trying to do the wrong thing, who are trying to go after people for political reasons, and you can see that Google didn't take them down. So I've got respect for that. I also want to point out, there are actual racist channels on YouTube that are allowed to be on YouTube, and YouTube won't take them down because if it's not a targeted campaign, you're allowed to say things that are offensive, for sure. They say, the leaked discussions are the third example of Google employees seeking to weaponize the company's products for left-wing political purposes. Of course, there is corruption, it exists, and I hope Google can resist it, because they haven't always, they've certainly been biased. The DCNF previously revealed that Google employees debated whether to bury right-of-center media outlets in the company's search function. The Daily Caller and Breitbart were specifically singled out in the discussion as media outlets to potentially bury. After Trump announced his initial travel ban in January 2017, Google employees discussed ways to manipulate search results in order to push back against the president's order. I want to end by saying this. The hate speech rules, hate speech in general, ideological. And that shows you, plain and simple, they are biased 100%. Purely biased. But I will also say, we are seeing a few select group of people trying to do this. And while it is a problem, don't, I'm trying to say it's not everyone at Google. And I think Google is nowhere near as bad as most people think they are. For real. But I also think it's important we call out the corruption and those trying to weaponize Google against their political opponents. I don't know, comment below. I'm beat. I'm going to get out of here. I'll have more videos on my main channel tomorrow at 4 p.m.